What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another week of Premier League predictions. I'm here with Eric. Say what up, Eric.
What up?
And we got another week of Premier League football. Last week, Eric went 4-6 in the predictions, and I went 5-5. So it was pretty rough on both ends. A lot of crazy things happened, as we're going to discuss as we make our predictions. Just a lot of craziness happened last week. So it was a great week for week 7, wasn't it, Eric?
Yeah, it was really good.
All right, so let's move into our Week 8 predictions. We got first up, Luton got their first dub. We didn't predict it, but
Yeah.
they pulled through. Freaking stoked for them, but sadly, they have to go face Tottenham now.
Yeah, this is rough for them. So I take nothing away from the win last week. It was very good. I'm excited to see Luton finally get a win this year. It's a great thing for them, and I hope that they can keep the streak rolling. Unfortunately, like you said, they are rolling straight into a game against Spurs. So even though you can take a 2-1 win over Everton, you're not going to be able to play the same kind of way that you did against Everton. You're going to have to play better than you did last week, especially if you want to contend against the Spurs team. Uh, Unfortunately, there's not much to take away from Spurs after last week's match against Liverpool with everything that happened. But in general, things that I took away from watching the game from Spurs is they need to be a little bit more decisive, even with a man advantage and then a two-man advantage. Spurs didn't take a charge. They didn't, just keep pressing and pressing and pressing. They got caught off a little bit and they had a couple of issues. So Spurs needs to clean up a couple of things, but I don't think they should have any trouble doing it against Luton. I think Spurs are going to win, but I think that Luton needs to keep the energy rolling into the next few weeks.
Yeah, so it was good news for Luton. It was their first game with more than one goal in a Premier League match, so that's exciting, and they finish it with a dub. But yes, I think Tottenham is just going to be too much for them. I would love to see a draw more than anything in a win, obviously, but I think it's going to be Tottenham.
Yep.
All right, moving on. We got Burnley versus Chelsea.
Yeah, so this is going to be an interesting game. So Chelsea took the 2-0 win over Fulham. I'm not going to lie, wasn't entirely expecting that. Chelsea kind of finally showed up and played how we kind of expect them to, especially of a club like Chelsea and what the expectation is surrounding them. They're going to be going up against Burnley, who had kind of a rough week last week, losing 2-0 to Newcastle. It happens. It is what it is. Newcastle's a strong squad. Burnley played, as best they could. I think that in this week, it's really going to come down to consistency. If Chelsea can consistently play how they did last week and then go back to how they should play the form that we know Chelsea to play at, they should win this game. Probably no questions asked. But if Burnley can, come back from last week, play at a little bit of a higher level, but play through and through the entire 90 minutes, I think they have a chance to hold Chelsea to a score that, could end up being in their favor. I'm not entirely sure, but I think just based off of what's happened in recent days, I'm going to take Chelsea with a win. I think that they're less consistent, but I like the squad a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm also going to have to take a Chelsea dub, but Chelsea cannot overlook this Burnley squad. Burnley's record would say they're not very good, but if you look at who they've played, they've been playing top teams. None of the teams they've played have been anything to just overlook. That's been tough teams the whole way for Burnley, so it'll be interesting to see what they can do here against Chelsea, but I think I'm just going to have to go with Chelsea.
Yep.
Moving on, Everton, who just we thought was looking hot and then takes a loss to Luton. Good for Luton, obviously, again, but we got another close matchup here for Everton and Bournemouth.
Yeah, so this is going to be an interesting one. So like we said earlier, Everton took the 1-2 loss to Luton last week. They played well. They just, didn't end up winning in the end. They didn't have enough finish chances, and, that's what it comes down to in the end. On the flip side of that, Bournemouth did lose 4-0 to Arsenal. Not entirely unexpected. Arsenal's a really good squad this year, and it's not, anything surprising, really, if you look at it. But I think both of these teams have played okay this year. They both have a lot to improve on and a lot to show going forward. And I think this is going to be a match for both of them to really shine and, step into their skin and go, okay, here we are. We're here to play. I like Bournemouth's squad. I like Everton's tactics. It's going to be tough to say who's going to take the edge in this match. So honestly, I think I'm going to take a draw. I think that either team, depending on the day, can take the win here. But I think overall both teams are going to play really well, and it's going to be a draw.
Well, I have different opinions, but
Ooh.
I could see a draw. Everton was looking good. Then they took a loss to Luton. Bournemouth has yet to win this season, which is kind of crazy from the way they've been playing. They haven't looked terrible. They haven't played terrible, it doesn't seem like. So I think Bournemouth's going to be fighting for this first win of the season. I think they're going to get it done against Everton.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. We got Fulham versus Sheffield United.
Yeah, so this one's going to be interesting. So, like we said, Fulham took the 2-0 loss to Chelsea on Monday, and it wasn't the best showing from Fulham. I think that Fulham can do better. From what we've seen from the Fulham squad, I think that they can do better, they can perform better, and overall, I think that they just weren't in the right space today or on Monday. It was it was a little bit of a lackluster performance, but it is what it is, and you can't be in the game every week. It just happens. You have the slip ups. We'll talk about another slip up later, but I think that Fulham, if they can come back into this match, they're playing a Sheffield squad that's really struggled. They lost 2-0 to West Ham last week, not entirely unexpected. They're playing a strong West Ham squad, and Sheffield have just really struggled. They had the rough week against Newcastle, and then they've lost again to West Ham. They're just really riding the struggle bus right now. I think that Sheffield needs to just kind of fully reset. I think that this is a game where they can. I think that they're not going to get blown out this game. They're not going to get overrun. I think that if Sheffield can play their game, they can hold the score low. I think that Fulham's going to take the win in the end. I just think that they have a little bit more of a solid squad right now that's a little more comfortable with what they're doing rather than Sheffield, who are still kind of up in the air a little bit. But I think that if Sheffield can play well, they can hold the score low, but I think Fulham's going to win.
Dang. Yeah, Sheffield's given up 10 straight goals with no goal of their own to answer. It's been kind of rough for them. I'd expect to see a lot better play for them against Fulham here. I'm just going to go with Sheffield United to counter your Fulham pick. So, Sheffield United it is. Moving on, we got Man United with a disappointing week versus Brentford.
Yeah, so this is just sad, honestly. So United took a loss, which neither of us kind of expected, but they lost to Crystal Palace 1-0. Like I said, Crystal Palace came out and they played how they should, and they took the lead, and they didn't give it up. And honestly, I like what I saw from Crystal Palace. On the flip side of that, you have United, who just didn't play well. They weren't there. They need to finish chances. They need to keep creating opportunities. They have to be stronger in the back. All these things that I've consistently said week and week and week. It's just, United needs to really get themselves together, because honestly, right now what we're seeing is not a good United squad. They are so disjointed. Things aren't working well. The team isn't coherent. They need to step it up and get together. On the flip side of that, you have Brentford, who took a 1-1 draw with Nottingham Forest. I mean, it was a good showing from both teams. They both played well. They each bagged a goal. I liked what I saw from Brentford. I think that they can finish more chances and, create more opportunities if they want. They need to, clean up a couple of mistakes. But other than that, the Brentford team played well, and I think that they can come into next week and play a weak United squad, if I'm being honest. I'm not entirely sure how this game is going to go, but I think I'm going to take a draw. I think that United still being what United is currently, unfortunately, they're just not playing to their potential. And Brentford kind of playing, good middle of the table football. I think it's going to end in a draw.
All right. Well, I don't think Man United's playing that bad. Well, if it goes to where they draw against Brentford, they got serious issues or a loss, even worse. So I'm still going to have to stick with Man United, even though they've kind of been very disappointing. Still going to have to stick with the Man United dub here, though. Moving on, we got Crystal Palace versus Nottingham Forest. Crystal Palace getting it done.
Yeah. So we literally just talked about these games. Crystal Palace took the 1-0 win over United. It was a good showing from Crystal Palace. They didn't let United score. They kept them down, and they put up the point and held it. That's all you have to do in the game. And honestly, I like the way that Crystal Palace has been playing this year. They've got a really good squad, and I think that if they just keep playing their game, they're a tough squad to beat. Honestly, it's one of those things. I wasn't entirely sold on them at the beginning of the year, but they've come together and they've played a good game, and I like them in the middle of the table right now. They have a chance to beat anybody, and I think that it's a good squad. On the flip side of that, you have Nottingham, who's played just below average in my opinion. But I like what I'm seeing from Nottingham. They play every week and they play strong. They put up goals. They give up a few here and there. But honestly, you're looking at a Nottingham squad and a Crystal Palace squad that can just as easily, put points up against each other and play good football. It'll be a good game in general. I'm pretty sure no matter what happens, it'll be good to watch. I think that with recent events and what's happened with both teams, I think I'm going to say what I said last week. If Crystal Palace can go in, get an early goal, and hold it, I like their chances a lot better. I mean, granted, statistically, if you put a goal in early, you're more likely to win. But honestly, I think that the way Crystal Palace plays well is attack early, catch the defense off guard, and on their back foot, put a goal in, and then keep taking your chances and setting up, and keep trying to put more points on the board. But if you can hold the defense, which their defense has done, they've held well, you can keep teams down. Nottingham does the same in a way. They do well in the counterattack and making plays, set up, and getting in and attacking. I don't think that they're as likely to go in and score a first 10-minute goal or something, but I think that they're just as likely to later in the game figure out what works for them when they get their feet set and come in and score. I think that both of these teams have a good shot. I think I'm just going to take Crystal Palace with the edge.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there. Crystal Palace riding that 1-0 win. I think they're going to keep it rolling against Nottingham Forest. So I'm also going to go with a Crystal Palace win. Next up, we got Brighton versus Liverpool. Brighton kind of had a disappointing loss to Aston Villa. Kind of expected more from Brighton out of that. But Liverpool also with a little bit of a unfortunate week, just down 2 men, and just ended up losing on own goal. Just a lot of things did not go Liverpool's way, and but I definitely think Liverpool is too much for Brighton to handle, so I'm gonna have to go with the Liverpool win.
Yeah, so after Liverpool's loss last week, 1-2 against Spurs, and after everything that happened in that game, I still like Liverpool's chances against Brighton. I think that Liverpool, whether or not they have Curtis Jones and however long Jota's going to be out, I just prefer the Liverpool squad. I think that they're going to play a stronger game. I think that the squad is just better in depth. I think that Liverpool just is going to play better than Brighton. Brighton had a really bad loss, 6-1 against Aston Villa. That's not what you want to see from Brighton. We thought Brighton had a good squad, and we like Villa. Villa's been playing very well, but Brighton can't be giving up 6 goals to Villa. They can't be giving up 6 goals to anybody. That's just a thrashing that you just can't have, especially when you have a good squad. But, I mean, between these two teams, I think that a down Liverpool after what happened last week that I'm not going to, get too deep into. But, if Liverpool can come in.
Biased.
I am, I'll be 100%. I am a little biased.
Call him out, Matthew. Call him out.
Yeah, call me out. Okay, yeah, see what happens. But, after what happened with everything that happened to Liverpool last week, I think that they're still going to come back, show that they're still a top team, and, not take any major hits from what happened last week. I think that they're going to bounce back and prove to everybody that they are who they are.
Liverpool?
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, we got West Ham versus Newcastle. This should be a very good match as well. Both teams playing pretty well. What you got here, bud?
Yeah, so I like this game. I think that Newcastle with the 2-0 win over Burnley is very good showing from Newcastle. They've been a good team all year. West Ham on the flip side of that, they took a 2-0 win over Sheffield. So both of these teams took a 2-0 win over, lower table teams. But, it's still good showings from both teams, and I think that they've played very well. I like the way that they, transition from the midfield up into the attack, and that they've been holding their back lines, fairly well. I like the way that the squads have been, arranged and the formations and the tactics that they're both playing. I like both teams' play style. I like the way that they play. I like to watch both of these teams because they are very high caliber teams. But I think in this week it's going to be really tough, and we're going to have to see what happens. I think that West Ham, with their counterattacking ability and their ability to come in and catch you on your back foot, I think that's going to come in handy. And I think that West Ham has just as likely a chance to win this game as Newcastle. And I think that Newcastle has a chance to come in and just overwhelm West Ham. It's either way, but I personally like the West Ham defense, and especially Areola. He's been doing very well this year. And I think that it's just going to be tough for Newcastle to get goals in. I could be dead wrong, but I think I'm going to take West Ham this week.
No, I'm just kidding. Any West Ham fans? I've just been riding the Newcastle wave, so I'm sticking with the Newcastle. Even though I think they disappointed one week. I can't remember which week that was. But we're going Newcastle. Counter your pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair enough.
All right, moving on. We got the Wolves coming off a great upset over Manchester City versus a hot, and I mean hot, Aston Villa team.
Yeah, so this game is so different than what I would have predicted it before last week. Before Wolves taking a win over City 2-1, never would have guessed that one. But hey, they did it, and that's what you got to do. And Villa coming in and thrashing Brighton 6-1. I never, before last week, I would have basically told you, yeah, it'll probably be a close game with a Villa win. But after what I saw last week, I'm not sure. This game can go any way. If Wolves keeps playing at the high caliber that they did to beat City, all right, it is what it is, and they're just going to keep rolling. If Villa comes in and just keeps steamrolling teams, I mean, it wouldn't shock me. This can go either way. I think that Villa's going to slow down a little bit, but I think the Wolves are also going to have to draw back a little bit. They played really well against City, and it's tough to keep that high going for 2 weeks. But I'm not entirely sure how this game is going to go. It can go any way. Both of these teams have the potential to just explode and take control of the game. And I think that the team that's going to explode and take the win is going to be Villa. I think that they just have a slightly better attack, and I prefer their style. I think that they just have a more coherent team, and the way that they play has been a little smoother and a little finer, and they've had the consistency. I think that that's going to be the biggest thing in this match. Wolves rode the high. They took the win. They have, something under their belt. They beat City of all teams. They came out and won. But they haven't been consistent. I think that's what's going to bite them. They have a really strong defense, but I'm just not sure. And I think that Villa is going to come in, put up some points, and walk away with the win. I think I'm going to take Villa, but I am happy enough to see if Wolves can pull it back. But I'm going to say Villa.
All right, I kind of agree with what you're saying there. Ollie Watkins got a hat trick. I think they're going to keep riding that high. I think they're going to keep winning. I think Villa's legit. They're a hot team. The Wolves, they had a perfect week. Man City scored 2 goals, and one of them counted for the Wolves. So another unfortunate thing. But, hey, the Wolves got it done nonetheless, so you still got to give them credit there. But, unfortunately, I think Villa's going to take care of business. I'm going Villa.
Yeah, makes sense.
And for our final matchup, we got Arsenal versus Man City. Game of the week.
Yeah, I have no idea, Chief. I'm just gonna go out in front and say I got no clue.
Yeah, this one's tough.
Yeah, so with Arsenal taking a 4-0 win over Bournemouth, that's a really good performance from them, and they've basically kept performing week in and week out. And I like what I'm seeing from Arsenal. They haven't really had any major slip-ups. Yeah, they've taken a couple draws, and they've had this and that and the other thing, and they made mistakes, but they come through in the end, and honestly, that's all that matters. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Arsenal.
Arsenal's the home team. Arsenal's home.
Yes. But, City. It's City. If you take out the loss last week from Wolves, which is what Pep's going to be saying, yeah, you lost last week. You come in next week fresh, like it never happened, and you play to play. Yeah. I think that it's gonna be rough for both of these teams. I think that it's gonna be a long and good game, but I think it's gonna be tough, and we're really gonna see what these teams are made of. Honestly, I have no clue.
Another watch party?
Maybe the last one didn't go too well, but City has the statistical campaign of they're here, they're at the top, they win, and they win big. But Arsenal's really good. They play good ball. They're strong. They have a solid defense. They can hit you on the counter. They got the pace. I like the midfield. They have a strong squad. But it's the consistency of City that I've been saying with every team this week. Consistency really matters. But with that dip last week, I think it's going to sit in the back of the players' minds and it's going to make them play harder. But I also think that because they're going to be so focused on playing harder that they might make a mistake, I'm going to take a draw.
Yeah, I could really see a draw here. I'm just going to go with Pep's got the boys fired up. I can't pick against Man City. I'm going Man City.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, you pick a draw. Yeah, that's right. All right,
Yep.
so that wraps up our picks for the week. Hopefully we do a little better than last week. With our different picks, there could be a big jump in the standings. Eric could gain some games or he could lose some places. Who knows? But anyways, Thank you guys for watching. Let us know your predictions down below. We love to hear what you guys have to share. Make sure you share this video with all your friends, family. Get them to predict on this video too. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We will see you next week.
See you.